Hey you guys, welcome back to the channel, Drawing with Michael. I am, of course, your host and artisan, Michael. Today we're going to be doing a piece of fan art for all of you lovers of the wonderful series, The Mandalorian. I will be doing Baby Yoda today. Okay, so this morning we are going to start out, of course, just like I said, we're going to be drawing Baby Yoda today. I'm working on toned paper, manufactured, I believe, by the Strathmore company. A lot of people have asked what paper I use, blah, 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 what paper, because, you know, yeah, Strathmore Tone Tan. It's about $12.49 at Hobby Lobby. I only go to Hobby Lobby because it's the closest thing. I'm sure they sell this at other art stores, or you can buy it online. This is about $13 roughly with tax, and you can get a coupon, I'm sure, at either Michael's or Hobby Lobby. So, whenever you sit down to draw something, a lot of times I think people really jump in a little bit too quick in drawing something, and they don't quite understand why they fail. You know, one of the things that I do in my career is practice something that a lot of artists have done over the years, and even though you explain it a lot of times, you know, up-and-coming artists really don't pay attention to that particular facet of drawing and art and you know, becoming a better artisan. One of the things that I practice is consistency. Consistency in the way that I do things, in practice, and just overall, you know, trying to be a better artist. And I think that, you know, whenever you explain this to people, especially young people and up-and-coming artists that really have relied upon a degree of talent through, you know, their youth, you know, maybe they took an art class in high school and they've had, you know, a teacher or somebody that says, oh, you know, you're wonderfully talented, you know, you're not going to have to do certain things, and blah, 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 and all these other, you know, things that, in my opinion, are great, but they really, you know, they don't damage a student, but I think it builds up a false sense of understanding of what it takes to be a professional artist. You know, in my teaching endeavors, one of the things that I always tried to do was to give, even whenever I was teaching elementary students and high school students, I was always very practical in the way that I taught, in saying that, you know, it takes a lot of hard work to, you know, to become a professional artist. And I think that one of the things that really has helped me throughout the years, and hopefully you guys will get a sense of how serious I am about it, is being consistent. Consistency means, you know, drawing every day, having a regimen, maybe even a schedule to do things a certain way, to where you basically keep building upon success after success after success after success. Now, will there be failures? Yeah. There'll be instances where something will happen and you don't quite understand, you know, why something happens. But I think on the whole, consistency really helps, you know, helps those moments whenever suddenly something happens. Well, it might have been perceived as something suddenly happening, but it's all the consistency that you've had throughout your career that has really led up to that moment of the suddenly. So, you know, this drawing is part of that consistency. You know, I'm always looking to draw something fun, and something cute, and basically something that, you know, maybe is popular, but ultimately, I think what I love to do is to just draw. That being said, not everybody has the ability to draw. That's one of the reasons why, you know, I have some of the viewers that I do, is because I put things in such a way that is very practical. Drawing is hard, right? Drawing is difficult. It's not one of those things that really, in my opinion, it comes easy to people. you might have a degree of of understanding how drawing works and the practical application. The pencil goes to the paper, right? But you want to learn how to put images on the 2D surface that people can relate to, and ultimately be an artist that people like. We always want to be liked. So today, of course, I am drawing Baby Yoda. This character has been, gosh, I remember whenever the first time I saw him, I was like, oh my gosh, that's the cutest thing in the world. And of course, Star Wars coming out this week. It's just one of those deals where I looked at it and I go, yeah, I think I should draw Baby Yoda. What makes Yoda so cute? I mean, why is he so cute? I think one of the reasons why is just that formula for cute. Big eyes, big ears, everything's oversized on him. He's got, even though he's, an alien creature, he's got very subtle, soft qualities about him that really lend itself to, being a baby. Which I'm not really doing a good job of creating Baby Yoda right now, unfortunately. Since I'm sitting here yapping. I got a burr in my pencil. Okay. So I'm going to not talk here for a couple minutes while I get things ironed out on this piece. So a lot of you guys know that I am a professional illustrator, and I design and create artwork for hard lines, that being toys, collectibles, stuff like that. But what a lot of you guys probably don't know is I was an apparel artist for years. And apparel artists are a group of guys and gals that really, in my opinion, don't get the proper recognition that I think they deserve, or they don't really get paid hardly anything. And you look at the product that's being sold, and it's it's just as much as, let's say, a toy. If you're a toy designer and a toy would retail for $26, $27, and they might have a run of 15 to 20,000 pieces, you would think that'd be a decent number of items, to be able to make a decent living. But the apparel artist doesn't, like I said, doesn't really get the recognition that in my opinion, they deserve, because their products, some of them, some of the retail products like at Disney and stuff, and Hard Rock, and some of the stuff in Walmart, you're looking at $25 to $35 price points for the for the shirts, and man, that's expensive. So props to all you apparel artists out there that watch my channel. I feel you. I was an apparel artist for years and years and years, and I did, gosh, I've done so much apparel. And it takes a specific kind of artist to do apparel. Somebody that has an eye for style, and the nuances involved in creating an embellishment for a garment, and everything's involved, the things involved in creating embellishment for garments, as well as you just don't slap a logo on the front and expect it to sell. Right? Okay, so what I'm basically doing right now is I'm having some challenges, obviously, because this isn't really turning out the way that I want it to. You know, this particular character has wrinkles. The challenge is even though he has wrinkles, he's very young, you know, for what this type of alien is. You know, Yoda being whatever, I don't know the classification of the alien that he is. You know, I think I heard inside of the, when I was watching The Mandalorian, that he's like 50 years old already, and he's a baby. I guess he ages really slowly. But you can't put a ton of wrinkles on a baby, because if you do that, it'll make him look old. You know, and of course Baby Yoda is not old. Baby Yoda is Baby Yoda. Now, even right now, I've kind of messed things up because his ears are too small. And his ears need to go like out to there. But we're going to deal with it best we can. I had the opportunity to work on some Yoda items when I was working with Disney a few years ago, as well as work on stuff for The Force Awakens, and you know, back whenever that was coming out. You know, I didn't work on stuff for The Last Jedi, unfortunately. But, you know, working on stuff for The Force Awakens was really a lot of fun. And, of course, I have not worked on anything for the current movie, The Rise of Skywalker. Which, again, you know, that's fine. Okay, so what I'm doing right now is I have reference material off to the side on my iPad. I got a page of Baby Yoda, and I'm drawing from all of the imagery that I put on my page, and basically trying to strike a balance between the reference material. Here we go. We'll go here, and what I want to do. Yeah, this ear is messed up. So let's do this. See, I'm trying to stylize it just a little bit. See, this comes here. It goes over a little bit. And so whenever I do something like this, you know, the composition being what it is on this piece of paper, I'm focusing in on Baby Yoda. I'm not going and creating a full-out, illustration. And you guys keep noticing I keep checking over here because the camera I'm using isn't the 4K camera that I was using before. The camera that I'm using is a DSLR, a Nikon, and here we go. We're going to put 2 minutes. We're going to put never. Because the Nikon has a time limit whenever it comes to video recording, because it's classified as a DSLR and not a video camera. So basically, once it reaches a certain point, it stops recording. So that's something that, you know, I had to figure out. I think it's about 20 minutes, 15-20 minutes. So I basically had to go in and adjust my drawing time to adhere to my time limit. So once this happens, then I reset it and I push play again. So Baby Yoda. If you noticed, I started out with a basic circle and I started building on it. You know, I use spheres a lot. Spheres like this. And then of course, whenever I want to add jaw lines, or whenever I want to add noses, I have this nice construction line here. But in my brain, I've always got, you know, construction lines going on these 3D looking imagery, right? And you use this underlying structure similar to like lattice work, like if you were to build a building, right? And basically what you do is you start thinking in terms of three-dimensionality. You know, I've taught this before numerous times on my channel, and how it's important, especially whenever you're drawing something trying to make it look three-dimensional, that you have some semblance or understanding of how things work in a 3D world. You know, everything, even if I were to do a side view like this, I'm still thinking about that underlying structure, right? And I got this skull underneath, like I've shown before, and how things are going to work. So, coming back to Baby Yoda, that's exactly what I've done. So if you notice, I'll put in these real light lines and shapes, like right here, and then he's got this volume that comes here, and then his foot's encased in this area right here, and then his other arm comes down behind him like this. He's got his little claw, his hand, I guess, right? He's got, that one goes like that, and that one goes like that. Then his foot. And his foot, see, I'm not going in and I'm not doing the details of the foot just yet. I just literally draw it in as a circle, because I don't want to get into the, you know, the details just yet. So this jawline comes around, like right here. And he's got these wrinkles that come right here. His neck comes down. Like that. So... Alright, so we'll come here. I'll just start putting in some of the nuances and correcting things. Yeah, I ain't doing that anymore. Got his little, he's got a little bit of baggage that comes up. Like so. Got this wrinkle that comes up. Right there. Okay, comes down like that. He's got a little, his mouth comes like that. A little bit further back, a little bit further back. And his little nose, his nose is so cute. Okay, comes here. It's got a little, so this area right here comes around. You're going to have a little bit of a darker line right there, and then you're going to have it comes down and in shadow. So that area is going to be in shadow right here, if that makes sense. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to refine what I'm doing. Going in, you know, this comes here, comes down, this little thing comes right like that, that goes like that, and this ear, I think, it's going to come like that. So what I might do, just because I want to spend a little bit of time on this, I might put you guys on time-lapse so you don't hear me yapping. Okay? Hopefully that'll please those who are not really fans of my yapping. Yeah. So it's going to come like this. Like that. Okay. Okay, so this is actually much bigger. Much bigger. So this goes like this. And that's actually white. So this is all colored in. Right? This is actually colored in quite a bit. And then that area right there is going to be darker. Right there. Okay. So we're going to come over to this side. I see just a hint, a little bit of white. And this comes like this. And this goes like that. And that's white in there. So whenever I go and do my final erase, I'll make sure that it gets erased out. So then I'll color all of this in. And this gets colored in. Alright, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put you guys on time lapse. Okay. I did a really fun commission over the weekend. I was going to tape it, but I kind of decided against that just because it was a personal gift and I didn't want to use that to my advantage. I mean, he didn't say that I could or if I couldn't, but I just want to respect that. It was of a really fun character from Kung Fu Panda, and very wise character. So we'll just leave it at that. Because again, I don't want to presume that it's okay for me to speak about it, because he did pay me in confidence, and I can at least say that I did something from Kung Fu Panda, but I can't say that who I did or whatever. Just out of respect. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put you guys on time lapse. You'll see the process of me inking and coloring in Baby Yoda, and hopefully you guys will enjoy. I hope. Okay. Okay, so what I'm doing right now as a final kind of little wrap up, I'm just going in and putting some of the visual cues that I think are important, like this wrinkle on this side is kind of important, before I go into the inking process. I'm redefining the nose a little bit more. I think the bridge of his nose comes up a little bit higher, right? And it comes like this, really right there. And I'm not going in and I'm not defining the entire line. I'm just basically giving it a little bit of variation of line weight, so it gives it just a little bit of life. I think this side, this eye wrinkle comes up. I'd like to see it come right here a little bit more, and then I've got a couple wrinkles here. And honestly, I think his ear starts back a little bit further over here. I kind of made a mistake right there, so we're going to come back and just define his face shape a little bit better, as it's kind of round right there. And see, just that little adjustment, instead of having it right here, really caused him to be young, much younger than he was. It's little things like that, drawing over time, you'll realize that you'll start getting a notion of what is old, how to draw old, how to draw cute, how to draw, attitude. And I think attitude a lot of times is what a lot of drawings are missing. I still work on my drawings all the time. I look at, drawings that are older and I'm like, man, I had so much to learn, and I still do have a lot to learn. But what I'm going to do really quick is I'm just going to put a darker line using, what am I going to use today? Gosh, I don't know. One of my brush markers. And we're just going to go in and do some inking really quick. And once I get that ink line in, I'll come back with my markers, and then I'll kind of interject really quick, just to show you guys exactly how I start the get this in really quick. I'm talking to you and I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing. Get the color and ink process in and show you how I start that out, because even though I love doing just simple sketch line and work, what I've noticed, especially in my body of work, is I even though I have a lot of finished items, a lot of those are professional pieces and I can't really show those. So I think I'm going to have a couple more finished pieces here and there from this lineup, my daily stuff that I like to do. That way you guys get a better gauge of my capability. I do take commissions for characters. Typical commission painting digitally will run you about $350 to $500, as long as it's not for use in commercial. Like, you can't take the character and go in and use it in a commercial capacity, in that way. And then, if you're having me doing any character designs, obviously the price is going to be different. But, just a simple commission. If you just want me to do a sketch like this, typically it's about $50 to $75, because I can do one of these pretty quick, and in terms of hourage, it doesn't take me that long to do something like this. So if anybody's ever interested in me doing commissions for them, I do take commissions. Just as long as they're not going to be mass produced. That's another big deal. I don't do characters for mass production, and those are all priced different, and that would be in a professional capacity. Anyway, so we're going to go ahead and put you guys on the inking process really quick. Probably about midway through, I'm going to stop and kind of give you an update on how I'm feeling about the piece this year. Man, ran out of space. Anyway, let's go ahead and get it inked up. Okay, so basically what I'm doing right now is I'm using my Sakura brush marker, and I'm going in and just giving an indication here and there of, you know, the ink line work. I'm not going in and heavy-handedly, you know, doing inking and shadowing and everything else that's involved, you know, with inking, with all the hash lines and stuff like that. I didn't want to do that because this particular character has nuance, right? There's nuance involved in this particular character. What does that mean? It means that there needs to be a softness to him. You know, whenever you look at Baby Yoda, and I've watched him a couple times on The Mandalorian, and the body gestures and stuff, it's very slow, kind of like an old man, but also very Yoda-ish. And they always put him in a different kind of a light, you know, to kind of soften things up. And I'm sure a lot of that has to do with the fact that he is a puppet. He is not a CGI animated. Now, there might be aspects of that, of each shot, that are CGI, but as far as I know, he is a puppet. And with that, you know, there'll be maybe a long shot, and of course they'll have different puppets for different, you know, shots. You know, for the close-up shot, I'm sure that it's very delicate, and you know, and for close-up or for long shots, they'll have a different type of puppet, and for one that they carry. But you know, I was looking at him, and they typically will put him in a different light setting whenever he's up close. It's very soft and very ethereal looking, and you know, that's of course to adhere to the power that we all know Yoda possesses, even at this age. It's so funny. Whenever he's, you know, doing his force thing, he doesn't even know what he's doing, and he raises his little hand. You know, whenever recently I saw a scene where, you know, he was using his power, and you know, he started to use his power, and then boom, something happened, and it saved his life. And you know, he kind of looked around going, wait a minute, I didn't do that. It was just kind of funny. Anyway, so yeah, that's all I'm doing. And if you notice, I don't go in and do a bunch of squiggly lines for the texture, because what I'm going to do basically is I'm going to go back in once I start doing my marker lines, and I'll put in hints of texture using lights and darks and different values in there. So I am going to color these eyes in though, because his eyes are really dark and beautiful, especially this particular part. So we're going to go ahead and color these in really quick. And then I'm going to come back, and see, there's a couple ways that I do things. I can either put in local color, you know, your greens values, your beige values, your browns, you know, and kind of work from there. Or I can go in and put in my grays first, do kind of like a gray tonal study, and then from there I'll basically I'll put in my my color, kind of like a multiply, but in real life. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick to my status quo, and I'm going to go ahead and do the, you know, put in my local color first, so you'll see that in time lapse, and then I'll come back with my value and go from there. You know, once again, not going in and doing a bunch of heavy inking lines, because I like the subtlety of where this drawing is going. I like the ease, you know, of it, and I want to rely upon the color and the value that I use whenever I go in and I start putting stuff in. I think a lot of times we put too much stuff in the drawing in terms of ink, right? There's too much ink, and it becomes so heavy-handed and dark, and it kind of mucks up and muddies up the subtleties of what we're trying to accomplish. Again, I'm using the Sakura brush marker, and what I'll do, and this is just, again, this is just a baseline of where I want to be. You know, eventually I'll come back with this marker, or even one of the thicker lined markers, right? Maybe one of these to gives a nice thick line, nice variation of line weight, and I'll just go back in and try and redefine some of these areas a little bit better, so you guys understand how my process works. So I think that's where I'm going to land with this preliminary ink line. Okay, and now we're going to, and what's cool too is, like if I put the olive in, right, okay, not only am I going to get the olive color, but I'm also going to get the tonality of the tonal paper, which is kind of a mid-ground. And then if I decide in these darker areas where that blue is, that's going to actually act as a cooling agent to the shadow, which is really nice, because I'm going to make him not only cool, because Yoda is cool, but the cool shadows, and then you have maybe on this side, maybe I have a warm shadow up here, because down here you have the cool shadows, and maybe up here we have a little bit of a warmer shadow. I don't really know yet. And of course I'll put eye shine in there and stuff, and you guys will see that process. So anyway, we'll put you on time lapse. Okay, so I had to switch cameras because my DSLR battery ran out, and I don't have, unfortunately, a whatchamacallit, an extra battery. And as far as the cord goes, I don't have the proper cord that goes with it, so I had to switch cameras, which hopefully won't be too much of an issue for you guys. I know that under perfect conditions, right, that I would have loved to have used the 4K camera that I was using, because it tended to have probably the best picture and microphone, but unfortunately, due to circumstances that I didn't see coming, I am no longer able to have access to that particular camera, and I don't currently have the extra money to purchase said 4K camera. So we're just going to have to make do with the old Canon 1080p high definition camera that I'm on right now. I was trying the other camera out again, you know, the DSLR, just because I wanted to see. It's supposed to have a better picture to it than my Canon, but you know, after I started looking through the footage that I shot this morning, a little bit of the footage of Baby Yoda, I was actually really disappointed in the quality of the footage overall. So I probably won't be using the DSLR either, and I'll just keep with this particular camera, you know, the old Canon. So this is where I'm at right now. I've been blocking in color probably for the past 20 minutes, 15-20 minutes, putting in some shadowing and just doing an overall, you know, laying in of the color and the hue for this particular piece. And if you notice, one of the things that I've learned about markers, because whenever I first started doing markers, it's a very just, you know, once you get it down, you can't do anything about it, right? Once it's down, that's it. So what I've learned is, working on toned paper, I'll start out with the lightest tone, like local color, and it mixes in with the brown hue of the paper, and it gives it a nice mid-value. So whenever I want to put shadows in, like if I put local color in, which is what I'm doing right now, I'll go in and I'll start doing the shadows even before I'll lay in the shadows. Like the local color, the way the alcohol markers work is you can go in and blend the colors, which is really cool. But what I've noticed is I'll go in and I'll do these edges first, and then whenever I come back and I put more material, alcohol and pigment into the paper, it actually acts as its own, you know, shadow, sort of. If you guys can see that, like I'll come back, and I'll just basically, you know, put in the same color over that hue, and it'll you know, darken. Okay, if that makes any sense. Sitting there talking, I always lose train of thought. Like, here's a really good example. So this doesn't have any hue on it except for the paper and a little bit of blue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this, because this is basically the local color that I'm placing in here, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to darken in the part that I want to be a shadow, if that makes sense. So then I'll come back and I'll block in the rest of it. But then inadvertently what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over that area that I blocked in as a shadow first. So it'll come out as a shadow, if hopefully that clarifies what I was talking about. And two, what's nice about markers is, you know, if you don't have one that's like really fresh, it'll bring out the texture of the paper if you don't press as hard and leave it in one place. So if you look, I wanted the edges to have a little bit of texture to them, so that's what has happened. I'm going to go ahead and block in his foot right here. Oops, wrong. You notice I was using the... See, watch, I'll show you. So here, crease right there, right there. Okay. That's nice. Then I'll come back over this part right here. Okay. It's not much. It's just a little subtle variable, you know, in the you know, the hue of the green, but it's just enough to give me the shadow that I want, right? The thing is with markers is once you go and you put in it's like watercolor. Unless you go in and put salt on it, it's hard to get, you know, once you go dark, you can't lighten unless you go back and you basically put in, you know, a highlight, which is really cool as well, especially if you're using Prismacolor, which is what I use. So now I come back with my shadow. See, watch. And I'm placing in that nice dark. And just remember, markers dry lighter, right? Because wetness, it's like if you had a wet piece of paper and then a wet piece of paper dries out, the paper will be lighter once it dries. Okay, so I'm going to take my rubber eraser really quick. I'm going to go in and get rid of some, I'm going to get rid of some of the blue and bring out some of these highlights that are in the eyeballs, just slightly. Right now, it's just local color, right? Local color being, you know, not a lot of light, well, it's supposed to be no light or shadow on that color, which I don't. I mean, this up here, I put some shadows in, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start putting some green into his jacket. So I'm going to look in my collection of markers, trying to find kind of a mid-tone. I like this tea green a lot by Artist Loft. So what I'm going to basically do is I'm going to go in and see what this does. Is now I'm putting it over the brown. So that green mixed with the brown kind of turns it an olive. And I'm not going to do it all over the place, because I don't want that, because the reflection from the sand, because the sand is going to be warmer. So maybe I'll put it up here a little bit, here and there, maybe in the shadow, maybe up here. And this marker is running out. So I had sung praises about the Artist Loft marker, but unfortunately it doesn't last. I've noticed that about Copic markers too, is they don't typically last a huge amount of time for the amount of price you pay. It is a premium. I'm thinking typically Copic markers are about $9 to $10 a piece, and you know, I don't know how many uses I get out of them. Now everybody's gonna say, "Well, you can refill them, bro." Yeah, I can, and that's all well and good. I've never really looked up the refillable aspect of it, and I probably should, especially since I use them all the time, right? And even there's some brown in him, right? He's got a little bit of brown here and there, but I'm going to go ahead and hit this again because I want that to be more shadowy. He's really not turning out the way that I wanted him to. He's still too old. Honestly, I you know, hindsight being 2020, I would have stopped and started completely over. Honestly, I just, there's sometimes in instances where you start a piece and you're like, oh gosh, it just didn't, I need to start over again. And that's kind of where I was on this. And two, you know, Yoda, there's, whoops, I dropped my marker. Oh. The young Yoda doesn't have that olivey, deep texture to him. It's got a lot of, in my opinion, a lot of blue. So we're going to make him a little bit bluer, especially around this area. It's not really that warm, you know. Yeah, around here we're going to get a little bit more blue. And that's what this marker is. This marker has a lot of blue in it. Bluish green hue. Don't think of markers as a how do I put it? As one of those mediums that is just, you put it down and that's it. What's nice about this is I treat them a lot like watercolor. You can really get such nice value with markers if you're patient, especially if you move in stages, you know, and don't try to do so much at once that it just completely saturates the paper to the point where you can't come back from it. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, I think I'm going to put you guys on time lapse, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to start putting some cool shadows. I really love using purple for shadows, because especially, you know, in these bluish green, I'm not sorry, bluish green, these warm areas with these nice cool shadows, it gives a nice you know, differentiation of value, shadowing, you know, that cool versus warm, right? Because what's going to end up happening here is, even though and even right now I can tell that it's just a little bit too purple, I'll come back and I'll throw the complement on there, and it'll push it back. It'll turn it to a gray tone. I'm sorry, not gray. Yeah, a gray tone. And it'll gray out, you know, that really vibrant purple hue that I have in here right now. So, not bad, not bad. A little bit here and there. Yeah, see, if you look at this, whenever I put it on the green, boom, pushes it way back. It makes it a nice. So I'm not putting black or gray on there. I'm using the complement. And it's very important you guys understand that, because you don't want to put white or gray or even black, you know, as your shadow element. You want to find the complement to basically keep the life. Because the second you put a gray, and I'm going to show you this here in a second, the second you put a gray on something, it will kill the vibrancy. It will kill the color itself. Right? It'll turn it into a shade. Okay. Okay, that's not bad. So here, I'll show you what I was talking about. So let's take a neutral. Where's a neutral gray? Okay, so it's N6 neutral gray. Okay. Right. So if I were to take this and I were to go in, look, it completely nullifies any color value in there, and it just makes it so dead. And I would only do this on the very edge. I'm not going to go in and color this whole area in, because again, it's going to kill the color, and I do not want to do that. You know, it's reserved for the darkest of darks. You know, maybe this comes down like this, and it just, I really don't enjoy putting, you know, grays and darks, and because again, what it does is it completely destroys. Now in terms of texture, if I put a little texture in here, that looks pretty good. Yeah, it'll completely destroy the color if I go in and just blanket it. Right? And I don't want to do that. Maybe like right here. The darkest of shadows. Okay, I like down here. I mean really on the edge and the cusp. Because I don't want to get into the color of it. Yeah. Goes up just a little bit. It's got a little crease right here. It comes down like that. Come right here. Darkest of shadows right there. Okay. Maybe we'll put something at the bottom here. Okay. Yeah, a little bit right there. A little bit right there. Yeah, it's got all these white hairs that I'm going to end up getting too. Yeah, I had a phone call this morning, so I'll be doing stuff for Margaritaville. I've got projects due for Warner Brothers, you know, doing toys, and it's the end of the year. A lot of people are trying to get stuff out before, you know, they go and have vacation with their families or whatever. And that's to be expected. Last year, I remember I had a huge project due, and I got it all done, and you know, I think it was Christmas Day, and I got pinged for something. I'm like, who works on freaking Christmas Day, man? I mean, just respect the boundaries, bro. But, you know, my wife always says, if you allow it once, which I did, I allowed it once, then they know, you know, you're available. Which nowadays I'm just like, nah, I'm not going to do that. Okay, so I'm going to put you guys on time lapse. I'm going to work a little bit on the eyes because I need to have that. Right now he's a little lifeless. So I'm going to go ahead and put some value, not some value, I'm going to go ahead and work on his eyes, maybe some eye shine and whatnot. So let me adjust the camera slightly. There we go. Okay, so we're going to do some eye shine. Okay, so I had a little bit of an issue with the marker that I was using. I use these, it's not really a marker, it's basically a paint stick, and unfortunately sometimes the paint stick does not want to cooperate, and cooperate meaning sometimes it completely messes everything up, and unfortunately that's what it almost did with my piece. So what I'm doing right now is basically damage control. So if you notice over here on the right hand side I've got 3 little marks that I'm going to end up having to mess around with and kind of incorporate them into my piece. But right now I'm just putting in some subtle little highlights in the eyeballs, you know, to kind of give it that really nice ethereal cute quality, right? So I'm trying, I keep messing things up. That's kind of my, you know, you want a piece to turn out a certain way and it just keeps messing up, so, which really sucks. So if you notice I'm using white, something I don't like to typically do, but you'll see here in a second what I'm going to do, just to help out with the overall color palette of Yoda. He's got a lot of different colors of green and yellow and bluish green and things that are inside of his, you know, inside of his skin that I think, yeah, and two, typically I don't use white. I'll use like a blue just to help out because I know how bad white kills color. So if I use like a blue hue, it really helps out quite a bit. So we're going to have this come around. Because white for me is literally the last, it is the last thing I do. But I wanted to get some of the eye shine in there. So I'm going to bring up, this is typically the one that I use for my highlights and eyeballs. And I'm going to show you why. It's a sky blue light, so what we're going to do is I'm just going to start shading in just a little bit here and there. It acts sort of like white, but since it is blue, it's much cooler. It's got a cooler quality to it. So we're going to have that come here. And I'm going to have some of the highlights right here. And he's got a nice little poochie, like boop, comes out. Right? That little highlight right there. Comes all the way around. And it goes down here. Okay? And sometimes whenever I see there's too much texture, I'll take my finger and I'll rub over it just to get rid of some of that texture value. So we're going to come up, we're going to put some highlights in here. Right, get a little more highlight on his nose. Right, and we're going to have some reflective light here. Comes around here. Right, comes around here. A little highlight right there, and so on and so forth. And basically what I'm going to do, let's see, I'll have that come around, have a little eye shine up there. And that goes right there. Because I want that to be pretty bright. Right there. So all this is going to be bright. Up here. So you guys can kind of see what I'm doing. And then what I can do is after I come back, or after I get done doing all my, you know, my highlights here and there, if I don't like a certain area, which there are certain areas I can already see that I don't like, I can come back with my mid-tone gray, my neutral, and redo some of the darker shadows to kind of bring out the areas that I think need the most attention. Right. You know. So yeah, I'm going to start teaching you guys a little bit more to keep my teaching muscles going. You know, my position over at the college did not get renewed. There's a myriad of reasons why that could have happened. You know, there's obviously conjecture and whatnot that I could get into. But the reality of it is, you know, it was, you know, time for me to move on. Right? There's a season. There's a season for everything, and sometimes you just have to look at it like that. You know, whether you agree with it or not, whether you like what happened or not, whether, you know, it's the same thing in every position. Sometimes, you know, it's like my position that I was at the agency over in Orlando for years and years, and, you know, I knew that my time was up with them, and I knew much earlier than what I really, I mean, I should have gone much earlier than I did. And I think that we all come to that realization. You know, you're at a position for a long time and you've matured to the point where you need to move on. And a lot of times we stay in a position because, you know, whether it's money, whether it's convenience, whether it's relationships, whether it's whatever it may be, I really don't know. But the thing is you need to recognize when it's time to move on. And sometimes some people never move on, and that's fine. But I think you need to realize that occasionally you do need to move on. It's time for you to move on, and it was definitely time for me to move on from that position at the agency in Orlando. Do I think it was the right time for me to move on at the place over there in you know, at the college I was at? You know, that's not for me to decide. I respect everything that went on there. I had a great time. You know, I really enjoyed the kids. I thought I brought something good to the table, and I think that you know, whatever the reason, it's not really my business. So hopefully that settles everything. For those of you who aren't my students that are watching, you know, it was a pleasure. If you do watch my channel, it was a pleasure to teach all of you, and you know, go out and conquer the world. So there you go. Go out and conquer the world. You know, go out and do it. And you can always watch me. You can always watch me do this stuff, because this is fun. Right? Okay, so he is definitely not looking cute. I'm sorry, guys. He is not cute at all. Isn't that funny? Not really. It's kind of sad. To be honest with you, it kind of looks like a... If anybody ever saw that, the program back in the 80s called Critters, you know, he kind of looks like one of those guys, but, you know, not as, you know, definitively scary. I just, what are you going to do, right? It is a challenge. Maybe if I do some highlights here and there. Maybe I can save it. Can I save it? I want to save it. I want Baby Yoda to work. Why doesn't Baby Yoda work? He's not working for me. He looks like a critter. Oh, epic fail. Like I said, you know, sometimes you know early on that the drawing isn't going to work. And I kind of felt it. Not that it's bad. I mean, I'm not saying that it's bad. You know? I think what I need to you guys need to understand is there's everybody has different standards. Right? Everybody has different standards. And the thing is You know, my standard's going to be different from your standard. And I knew, I knew that whenever I started this drawing, I was like, this didn't work. His ears need to be bigger. He's just, oh, yeah. So what I'm doing now is just putting some little highlight textures of areas that I think need some attention. Right, and some of these periphery areas that help bring the piece cohesion. It's a challenging thing, drawing, right? I can say that. Drawing is challenging. Drawing characters, it's always funny every single time I do something like this and then I get it off, which is what has happened. I can hear that thing in my brain. You know, that doesn't look on model. Oh, you're completely right. Inner dialogue. It doesn't look on model. It looks... Yeah. Oh well, you know what? I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. At least I got the video out to you guys, right? At least I did something today. So sometimes it's the littlest of things that make the piece not work. You know? I don't know. I don't know, guys. I think the reality is you know, we all struggle with something at some point in our lives. You know, we all have moments where we wish we could change the outcome. This is obviously one of those moments where I wish I'd have taken my time a little bit more in the initial concept sketch. I mean, he's not terrible, don't get me wrong, he's not terrible. It's not like he's got the leg growing out of the side of his head. But standards, baby. Not quite up to my standard of what I wanted to do for this particular character. I put off doing this character because I knew how hard it was going to be. Getting the nuances correct, getting it on model. You know, this is basically the first time I've ever drawn Baby Yoda. You know, maybe I should have drawn him like 3 or 4 times before I sat down and actually did a piece like this. That would have been the smart thing to do. But the reality is sometimes you just like, you know what, I'm just going to do it. I don't care. Right? I don't care. I'm just going to do it. Who cares? I think I'm going to mess around with the black of his eye. I think that's what's doing it. I think that I just messed up. Bless you. I think I've messed everything up pertaining to the way I want his eyes to look. Right? You know, he just doesn't look happy. He looks sad. Baby Yoda looks sad. You know? I don't know. I'm just not happy with it. Okay, I'm going to come back with my gray. Okay. I didn't think I could screw it up anymore, but I think I might be wrong. I think I'm just screwing everything up. Oh my gosh, I'm screwing everything up. It's a Baby Yoda, but Baby Yoda's not Baby Yoda at all. He's some weird, scary looking Yoda. Oh gosh, not happy. I'm sorry. You know, I was sick last week. That's what I'm going to blame it on. I blame it on the sickness. The sickness is what caused me to have such a terrible drawing. It's got to be the sickness. It's not me. It can't be me, right? Right? It can't be me. Oh, not good. You know, I actually got to get my black marker out. The black marker. This is it. This is the last. This is... As all my markers fall on me. This is it. If this doesn't fix it, on a drawing, and the more you do to it, the worse it gets. Oh. It's like a train wreck. Oh, sweet molasses. You know what? I think I'm gonna stop. Stop, dude! Stop the madness! Stop the suck! Oh, I feel... Well, I'm not gonna apologize because it is a drawing that, you know, it is a drawing. Oh, anyway. A little bit of indication of value down here to show ground plane. Alright, sure, why not? I might as well go ahead and just mess everything up. Oh, yeah. Not, it's a comment that I had to make for quite a few of the students, actually. Oh, yeah, I'm not having the right color. Quite a few of the students, actually, that I had finals for, you know, and I had to say, not your best. And, you know what? I'm going to say it for myself. Not my best. Not my worst, but not my best. Golly. Not even... Jeez. Not my best. Sir, it was not your best. But you know what? That's alright. I think at the end of the day, see, now I'm getting to the point where I'm like, ah, screw it. I'm just gonna have fun with this thing. That might have been the problem. I was too tight-waisted. You're too tight-waisted. Right? Anyway, I think this is where I'm going to land on this one. My apologies to those who are looking to change the world with your Baby Yoda art. This particular sketch obviously didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. Now I can't find my highlight. Where's my highlight? But you know what? That's okay. I think what we need to realize is not every piece of artwork is going to be a knockdown masterpiece. And if you accept that for what it is, then you can say, hey, I learned a little bit of something on this one, which I did. I learned something on every single one of them. And you can say, hey, you know, maybe next time I'll do better. Maybe I'll put a little tear. In the arms of the angel, fly away. No, I will not do that. Arms of the angel. Alright, that's enough of that crap. No, not my best. Anyway, thank you guys for coming and visiting my channel, watching me fail epically. I wanted this to be one of those pieces, especially, you know, since I love Star Wars so much, or at least I used to, until they started coming out with movies that sucked. What, how dare you? Star Wars is my life! Yeah, you know, it was my life too for a long time. So, anyway, like and subscribe and share. Try and grow the channel. Thank you guys for visiting. Okay. Oh my gosh. I just can't stop. You ever get your... And you're like, I just a few more strokes. I can make it better. I swear I can make it better. It's... Oh, I can make it better. It's... I don't want to stop. It's like a train wreck. Suck you do. Alright, you guys. We'll see you next time.
Bye.